Ever wondered why your macarons turn out differently in different climates? Welcome to a world of sweet, airy delicacies known as macarons. These petite French confections are as delightful to thee as they are to the palate. But the journey to baking perfect macarons is often riddled with challenges, one of which is the crucial step of moisture removal in egg whites. Yes, drying out the egg whites can greatly impact the final product. The climate, too, is a big factor. Weather conditions such as humidity, or the lack of it, not only affect the texture and appearance of these divine treats, but also the efficiency of moisture removal in your egg whites. Stay tuned to learn how to master the art of baking macarons, keeping in mind the moisture content in egg whites in different climates. The key to perfect macarons lies in the recipe. As with any culinary masterpiece, our journey begins with the right ingredients. The stars of the show are almond flour, powdered sugar, egg whites, and granulated sugar. These staples form the backbone of our macarons. Imagine almond flour and powdered sugar as the bricks of our little confectionery construction. They give our macarons their distinctive texture and form. It's crucial to sieve both these ingredients together, ensuring a smooth, lump-free blend. Now let's talk about egg whites, the binding agent, the glue that holds our bricks together. But here's the catch. They need to be aged. Yes, you heard it right. Aged egg whites, preferably left in the refrigerator for about 3 to 4 days. Whip up to a higher volume, giving our macarons that desired light and airy texture. The granulated sugar is our secret weapon. It stabilizes the egg whites, preventing them from deflating, and imparts that sweet, delightful taste we all love in our macarons. Once we have our ingredients ready, it's time to dive into the process. Start by whipping the egg whites to soft peaks, then gradually add the granulated sugar, continuing to whip until you achieve stiff peaks. Next, fold in the almond flour and powdered sugar mix. This step, known as macaronage, is a delicate dance. You want to combine the ingredients without deflating the batter, yet ensuring it's well mixed. The batter should flow like lava, not too runny, not too thick. Pipe the batter onto a baking sheet. Let them rest until a skin forms on top, and then bake to perfection. The result? Beautiful, smooth domes with signature ruffled feet, a testament to your baking prowess. The magic of macaron making lies not just in the ingredients, but also in the right proportions and techniques. Remember, baking is part science, part art, and a whole lot of love. Now that you know the basics, let's delve into how climate affects your macarons. Baking in a dry, non-humid climate has its own set of challenges. But fear not. Even the driest desert air can't stop us from creating delightful French macarons. So what's the deal with dry climates and macarons? Well, the primary issue lies in the meringue. Dry air can cause the meringue to dry out too quickly, leading to cracked shells, or even worse, macarons that don't rise properly. And it's not just the meringue that's affected. The shells of the macarons themselves can also suffer in dry climates. They may become overly brittle and break easily, or they may end up too hard, losing that characteristic soft, chewy interior we all love in a good macaron. Now you might be thinking, that's all well and good, but how do I fix it? Well, let's dive into some of those macaron making adjustments you can make to conquer the dry climate challenge. Firstly, consider reducing your baking time. This might seem counterintuitive, but remember, in a dry climate, things dry out faster. By reducing the baking time, you're giving the meringue and the shells less time to dry out, which can lead to a better texture overall. Secondly, try adding a little more moisture to your recipe. This could be as simple as adding an extra egg white to your meringue, or a smidge more cream to your ganache. Just be careful not to overdo it, as too much moisture can lead to other problems. Finally, consider adjusting your oven's temperature. Lowering the temperature slightly can help to slow down the drying process, giving your macarons a better chance of rising properly and achieving that perfect texture. Remember, baking is as much a science as it is an art. It's all about tweaking and adjusting until you find what works for you and your unique environment. Your macarons might not come out perfect on the first try, and that's okay. With patience and persistence, and by making these small adjustments, you'll be well on your way to mastering the art of macaron making in a dry, non-humid climate. But what if you're not in a dry climate? What if it's humid? That's a whole other ballgame, and we'll dive into that next. Humidity can be a baker's worst enemy, especially when it comes to macarons. Now, if you're living in a humid climate, You might be all too familiar with this struggle. But why exactly does humidity pose such a challenge? Well, the answer lies in the delicate balance needed to create the perfect macaron. You see, the meringue and the shell of the macarons are particularly sensitive to moisture. When there's excess moisture in the air, it can cause the meringue to become too wet and the shells to become too soft. This might lead to cracked shells or macarons that just won't rise properly. So, what can you do to overcome this? Well, first, you'll need to adjust your recipe slightly. You may need to increase the amount of almond flour and powdered sugar, which can help absorb some of that excess moisture. You might even consider reducing the amount of egg white slightly, as this can also contribute to a wetter meringue. It's not just about the ingredients though. The baking process itself might need some tweaking too. For instance, you might need to extend the drying time for your macarons before baking. This extra time allows the shells to form a skin, which helps them rise evenly in the oven. Also, consider lowering your oven temperature and baking for a slightly longer time to ensure the macarons dry out properly. However, one of the best tools at your disposal is patience. Humid climates may require a bit more trial and error, a little more time to get things just right. But don't be discouraged. Remember, baking is as much an art as it is a science. And here's the silver lining. Once you've mastered the art of baking macarons in a humid climate, you'll have a skill that many bakers strive for. Your macarons will be the talk of the town, and you'll have the satisfaction of knowing you've conquered one of the trickiest baking challenges out there. While the process may differ, the joy of baking and eating macarons remains the same. So what's the takeaway from all this? Let's put our heads together and break down the key differences between baking macarons in a dry, non-humid climate versus a humid one. It's all about mastering the art of adjustment, a crucial skill in the world of baking. In a dry, non-humid climate, the batter dries out faster. This means the macarons form a skin more quickly, leading to a crispier shell. But be careful, too much dryness can cause the shells to crack. To keep this from happening, you might need to add a touch more liquid to your batter, or cover your macarons while they're resting. On the flip side, baking in a humid climate presents its own set of challenges. The moisture in the air can prevent the macarons from drying out properly, leading to a softer shell or even a failed macaron. To combat this, you might need to let your macarons rest a bit longer before baking or invest in a dehumidifier to keep the moisture levels in check. But it doesn't stop there. Temperature also plays a key role. In a cooler climate, your ingredients might need a bit of warming up before you start baking. In a warmer climate, chilling your ingredients could be the key to perfect macarons. Remember, these are just guidelines. The beauty of baking lies in the experimentation. You might need to tweak these tips to suit your specific climate and baking style. And that's okay. It's all part of the journey. The key takeaway here is that understanding your climate is crucial in baking macarons, or any delicate pastry for that matter. It's not just about following a recipe, it's about adapting and adjusting to create a masterpiece that's uniquely yours. And so, we come to the end of our climate-based baking journey. Let this knowledge empower you to make the most delectable macarons, no matter where you're baking from. Remember, every climate has its own charm, and every baker has the power to adapt and create delicious macarons. Now you hold the secret to perfect macarons, no matter where you are. We've journeyed through the delicate craft of macaron baking, explored the vital role that the recipe plays, and seen how climate can impact your sweet creations. We've discovered how the dry, non-humid climate can make for a smoother baking process, and how a humid climate may require a bit more finesse and adaptation. We've also summarized the key differences, and how you can adjust your recipe to suit your surroundings. But remember, these are just guidelines. The true magic of baking lies in the experimentation and the joy of creating something new. So, we invite you to roll up your sleeves, dust off your apron, and dive into the world of macaron baking. Try out the techniques we've discussed today, tweak the recipe based on your climate, and see what wonderful treats you can create. Whether you're in the dry heat of Arizona or the humid tropics of Florida, your macarons can still be a delight to the senses. We would love to hear about your experiences, your trials and triumphs, and of course, the taste of your macarons. So, don your chef's hat, preheat your oven, and embark on your macaron adventure. Happy baking, and remember, practice makes perfect. Before we end this video, we have a challenge for you, our dear viewers. We want you to put on your baking gloves and take on the Macaron challenge. We've given you the tools and the tips. Now it's your turn to put them to the test. Bake your own macarons using the techniques we've shared today. Play around with the recipe, adjust it to your local climate, and let's see what you can create. But here's the twist. We want you to share your results with us and the world. Post your macaron photos and experiences on social media using the hashtag #MacaronChallenge. Share your trials, your triumphs, and of course, the taste of your macarons. We can't wait to see your creations and hear about your baking adventures. Remember, there's no right or wrong in baking, only delicious discoveries. So go on, accept the challenge, bake those macarons, and let's make the world a sweeter place, one macaron at a time. Happy baking!